Sediment redistribution is when a river floods and there is plentiful amount of sediment on the top layer of the ground. The river then pulls the loose sediment into the river, where it is turned to river sediment. When the river floods again, the river once again pushes out the sediment and pulls more in. Therefore, the sediment is redistributed throughout the river system. What happened in our test is all the sediment moved downstream and got deposited at the end of forming a delta. But sometimes the sediment was also deposited at the sides of the river after the flood, retreated, forming natural levees and creating an undercut as the sediment traveled downstream.
The sediment that was around the flooded area was dramatically eroded by the flooding of the river. It was also being pulled into the river as the water subsided. There it was taken and deposited in the bottom of the river or taken out to sea by the current. However, if there was to be another flood, the sediment that was deposited would then be deposited by the flood and placed back into its original state until the flood came again and repeated the process. The pictures show that the further along the river, the deeper and the wider it becomes. This can be seen with the first photo, where it was very shallow with low banks. On the other last photos, it increases in depth, which you can tell by the height of the bank. It also forms similar each test. First, it increases in length, then begins to form a meander.
Test 1 before the flood, the river starts to meander about a minute or two in the process. After the flood, not quite a foot or two down the river, it begins to meander to the right. Just the opposite of the last meander. During test 2 before the flood, a body of water formed just before the river makes a sharp point bar. As the water flows, the point bar begins to widen. Not much long after that happens, the river quickly meandered off to the left. As the river kept flowing, the meander slowly wasn't a meander anymore. The river eroded wide enough that the meander simply flowed straight again. In the beginning of test 3, before the flood, the river just meandered to the right, which steered the river to flow over to the left and begin flowing straight again. After the flood, the river just kept flowing into the body of water at the end. Before the flood in test 4, the water sort of just plunged straight before curving off to the right. After the flood for test 4, the river basically just flows in the path that was left before the flood happened.
Depending on the scale of the flood, I believe that sides of the river will erode more due to the expansion of the river and increase in erosion. I also think that the surrounding area will be eroded as well. Be the water that was flooded through the countryside and later deposited by the river. We came to this conclusion by watching the video you provided us. There will be found that all sides of the river will be eroded more than the bottom. Also, we used data we collected from the vertical profile sheet you gave our group. As we watched the video, we realized that deposition is occurring. It started at the very beginning of the river and slowly moved down the stream. As it moved down, the stream became more eroded and erosion occurred. The deposition increased.